Hey, could you hit the, I can do it. Hit the fan down there, please. Thank you. Sweet. Hey, Becky.
Hey, so I have to tell you, last night I had this dream that I was asking you to give me your wife and your daughter's cell phone number in case you like passed out during the session so that I could notify them that you need assistance.
I will certainly do that because
And then I woke up and I thought to myself, that's a really good idea.
that's not a bad idea. I don't think that's going to happen, but I didn't think a tree was going to fall on me either. There, how's that? I've got a house full of people today.
You do?
Well, not a house full. It's a long story, but we're moving up here, or we moved up here. Excuse me. My wife is preparing for the garage sale, the mother of all garage sales, barn sales.
Oh boy.
So it's taken 2 or 3 months to get to this point. And we actually have friends that we are willing to come up and help. So she's up here with one of her students and two of her kids, and the two kids actually found me last week. We talked about that this morning.
Oh, I didn't. My internet access is sometimes unreliable, so sometimes I'll stop hearing anything and then I'll just wait and then I'll come back. So I didn't know who found you. So it was her kids?
It was her kids, and they were working elsewhere on my property, really pretty close. And as a result, naturally they were, I think they've held it. They were fine, but it was not something that 16 and 13-year-olds should have to deal with on a regular basis.
Right.
So we spent some time this morning sort of revisiting it and getting ourselves in that space, good spot again.
So were you out when they found you?
No, I wasn't. No, I had never lost consciousness, which was a big plus. So I was able to help to that end. And so I told them, I think I made a mistake. I think that's what I said.
And it was a big one.
It qualifies.
If it makes you...
What's that?
If it makes you feel any better, my husband, I think he was in his 20s, wanted to remove a tree stump. So he had a tractor, put the chain around the tree stump, The tree stump did not move. I think he had it down too low.
Okay.
So the tractor went up and over and fell onto him.
Oh my gosh.
And so then he used to be an iron worker, and his brother also worked at that iron worker place. Well, that was only about a block or two from his house. And so the mother ended up calling the brother saying, "Get a crane down here. There's a tractor on top of your brother."
And he lived to tell about it, though.
Yeah, back then he was a very compact, small person, like 140, 150 pounds. And so his knees just both went behind his shoulder, and then his hand was stuck under the steering wheel. So that's why when the firemen came, they were trying to drag him out, and that didn't help because his hand was still under the steering wheel. So once the crane came, then they just lifted the tractor.
Did he have
Yeah.
did he have any permanent damage to his hand or anything else?
No. Mm-mm.
Just one hell of a story going forward, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Really lucky.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so trees, they're so unpredictable.
Well, and I feel like I've milked this for all it's worth, but I actually when I was age 16 and 17 for 2 summers, I did nothing but cut trees. So I think I know what I'm doing, but clearly I don't because and I've cut trees not that much since, but it's a skill that you don't typically forget. And I did for a non-professional, I did I worked all summer and done okay, but I made a near fatal mistake in not knowing how to properly respect a dead tree, a tree that had already been weakened by either rot or, in this case, woodpeckers, and it didn't behave like a normal tree does, and so as a result, you get yourself in trouble.
Go shut my door.
Okay. Hey, Jacob, I like your wall hanging there. It looks very
Thank you.
colorful. Now, are you moving into an apartment for the first time in your life? Or were you a dorm liver before, or what was that?
Yeah, so I lived on campus until we got booted back home when COVID started, and then I decided to move back to Allendale. So I live in one of the complexes called Evolve, right by campus.
Okay,
Oh, that's
good.
nice. That's a newer one, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it's really nice here. I like it. But yeah, this is my first apartment.
They're very much apartment dwellings. When my first dorm room was about the size of the current bathroom I own, So do you have a roommate, Jacob, or are you by yourself?
Yeah, I have 3 roommates.
Oh,
So
3. Okay.
yeah, 2 friends from high school and then my boyfriend currently.
Nice. Good
Cool.
for you. Well, that's cool. Good for you.
I forgot what
Alright.
your major was, Jacob.
Management information systems.
That's right.
Yes.
I took Management 268. Have you already had that or not yet?
I have that this coming semester, actually.
Okay. I loved it.
Really? How was it? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
It was,
go
our
ahead.
dean talks very highly of the course, so I wanted
She does,
to
yeah.
take it, and I thought, as someone who's already been through a lot of management classes, I thought it would be kind of neat to see what's out there now. My main reason is I wanted to learn SAP because I thought in the accounting world, knowing SAP could be an asset to my resume. And that's kind of my mission with all of these classes, is to try and beef up my resume, since I don't know what'll happen a year from now.
Right. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't know, do you? Well, I'm a little concerned after preaching the timeliness of the world and my view on it. We are 5 after, and I have 2 students out of what I think should be 6. So that doesn't bode well for people listening to what I've been asking of them. So let's see. Let's take a look.
It'll be
What-
interesting if you have some people dial in at 7 tonight.
Really? Do you think that's what's going to happen?
Possibly, just because the other 3 are all at 7.
That's true. That's true. You do have to read your emails. Oh my God, what are we going to do about that? Well, it turns out, I don't have a lot. I was mistaken. This is Shaman, you, and Jacob are the only 3. I was mistaken. I'm not sure why. I needed something. No. I'm reading this incorrectly. Just a minute. I'm trying to get this back. It is Tuesday. at 1 o'clock. There should be 4. Shaman, Chris, Jacob, and Becky. Okay, well, I don't believe in holding back for others because I think that in part disrespects you for being here in time. So we're going to get started. It's recorded. They will just jump in. All right? So here we go. I will see if they do decide to join on a participant list and let them in. All right, so I'm going to share out today. This session, again, I'm doing this as you can expect a little bit on the fly, so not fully certain of my timings, but I've got a pretty good sense, and I can speed or slow as we need to. I'm going to share out the PowerPoint that I'll be using today, and if you hadn't already gathered, these PowerPoints are available to you up in the documents area once we are done with them for the day. Okay, so if things are as I expect they are, you see me in the upper right hand corner, and you see what is a title screen, effectively managing and motivating remote workforce. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. Becky, I'm going to use you as my go-to person. If something is amiss, you're going to let me know. Okay. All right. So, you know, this is session 1, and today is Tuesday, 21st. We'll start at 1 o'clock. I've got a small exercise, so you're not just listening to me the entire time. You probably noticed already I tend to engage people. There's only 3 of us here, so why wouldn't I anyway? And I will insert a break in here somewhere. I'll need a potty break. I'll need a cup of coffee. You will need to stop. You will need to regain your energy from listening to me drone on. I know all the things that we have to do to be successful. So, okay. All right. So I just for giggles, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but how many of you, of the 2 of you, were you able to read the material assigned for Monday?
Yes.
I did.
You did. Okay. That doesn't surprise me, being the 2 people that showed up on time and are here. Okay, good. Okay, and dare I ask, how did you do about the stuff on Tuesday's assignment readings?
I just started the first article, but not
That's
very
fine.
far at all.
Okay, and Jacob?
Yeah, I just opened them up and they're ready for me, but I haven't read them all yet.
And no worries at all. I said I wasn't going to be concerned about that. Today's lecture will help you hopefully crystallize what happened on Monday's readings, and help you prepare for what will be the Tuesday readings. You do have a quiz tonight, right, at 11:59, due by 11:59. All right, so let me get started here. Hopefully I got the right slide deck. Okay, good. Here we go. This is Becky, you've got an advantage on poor young Jacob here in that you've been in school a bit longer than he. So there's a good shot that maybe you've seen this model before in some communication class. Is that true, Becky? Have you seen anything like this?
You know, it has been so long that I don't remember because I was in college in the
totally
80s.
Right. Wow. Did they have college back then? Way back then?
Yeah, they did.
Holy shit. That's great. That's great.
So I think there may have been some new concepts that have come
Maybe
out
some new
since then.
concepts. Well, I tell you what, this concept is not new. And Jacob, if you had a communication class in high school, or even as a freshman here at Grand Valley, you would have seen this model as well. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I think this is the first time I saw it was in the reading.
Okay. This one is
Pretty intuitive, though.
It is rather intuitive, and we're going to walk through it as if I were a manager, okay? Because obviously this is a generic message, a generic communication process that can be used for lots of things, but this is a course on management. So here's how we start. The manager in this case is the sender. I have an idea. I want to get this idea across to Jacob, right? So I'm going to formulate a message. If I think about it, if you do this in minutia, the message is being formulated in my head in some capacity. It's not even in language yet. it's just this concept of let's pretend. Okay, I'll sort of play both sides here. The message is I want to make sure that Jacob reads all of the necessary stuff before he takes the quiz tonight. Okay, so I've got this idea bouncing around in my head. How do I? Well, that's the message I want to get to him, right? I want him to know how important it is that these quiz are really well aligned to the readings. Make sure you read the stuff before you attempt the quiz. Okay, so that's the message. If I was a manager, hey, I want to make sure that you complete this form before you submit it and that you double check your work, whatever the message is. And by the way, it could be as trivial as, make sure you use a blue pen. It could be all sorts of messages. The point is, then as the manager, I have to figure out what to encode it with. Okay, what do I use to take this idea that's in my head and encode it so that I can send it to Jacob? Well, the most common encoding mechanism we have is to take our ideas and we turn them into the English language, and we use words. That's an encoding process. We took this idea that I want him to be ready to take the quiz, and I'm going to put it into words. Okay, these are words. I'm going to give Jacob some words. Now, clearly, we don't think at this pace. We would be, if we did, we'd be bored out of our mind, right? But it's important to know, okay, for the purpose of this. So I'm transmitting this. How should I transmit it? Now, as a manager, this is where we really get a lot of options. I could, one of the various mediums, Jacob, I might send that message to you.
Did you say one of them? Email.
I could drop you an email, right? And we'll talk about whether that's good or not. Becky, what's another one?
Speak it.
I could tell him I'm on a Zoom call with it right now. Why do I do that, right? I could post it on Blackboard. I could text him, right? I could put a note in a bottle and slip it down the Grand River and hope that he finds it. Could I? Yeah, of course I could, right? It would be a very effective medium, but I could definitely do it. I could say I did it, right? Okay. Now, let's presume for a moment that we're going to use the one that's probably closest to what I would have normally done, which is, hey, I think I'll use the language that I have available to me, and I will use this Zoom medium that I've got, video conference, and I'm going to look him in the eye, and I'm going to go, hey, Jacob, I want you to make sure you read those articles before you take the test today. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I did a number of things there, more than just the words. Jacob, what else did I do?
You were looking at the camera, kind of like eye contact almost.
Trying to. What else? Becky?
I saw you shaking your finger.
I'm shaking your finger, young man. I'm giving you kind of a warning, right? Right? I also was using a tone that wasn't meant to be a joke. It wasn't meant to be, dismissive. It wasn't yelling at him, but it was an intense kind of a tonality in my voice saying, Jacob, make sure Jacob, just the fact that I said his name, comma, pause, there's a bunch of messaging that's going on with that statement by itself. I'm not talking to Becky, I'm talking to Jacob here, right? So that's all this stuff. By the way, he's receiving all that. That's the decoding. He is picking up all of that. He's picked up the fact that I'm staring in the camera, I'm looking at him, I've said his name, I've paused, I'm using the right tonality, I've got some words, I'm shaking my finger at him. Okay, now, he could send me a message back. Probably, given our normal conversation, that's what he'll do. Depending on the situation, the message. What could the message be? What are the various messages? You could tell me what would be obvious, but what are some other messages you could tell me, Jacob?
If there's any information that I need, like I'm missing one of the articles or something, just kind of let you know what I need for me to do that.
Sure. The message might be, I heard what you said, Paul, but I don't have all the articles. Oh, okay. Becky, what might be another different message you'd send?
Well, one message could just be say okay, or maybe if there's any clarity needed of, well, where is that quiz or something
Sure,
like that.
sure. And thousands of others. One of them could be, hey, you old man, take your readings and do this with them. Right? Unlikely, but it could happen. That could be what's going on in his mind, going, I don't want to read those goddamn things, right? But he's also sharp enough to realize that probably what he's going to do is give me a head bob, right? So his affirmative is to encode it into a nonverbal communication, and the medium he's going to use is probably the same one that I've used to send to him. Wouldn't necessarily be the case if we had suddenly been cut off, we didn't have Zoom, he might text me. If we were suddenly cut off, Becky would be calling my wife going, did he die or not? That's what she was worried about before, because she's concerned about my health. All sorts of things could happen.
So was that her cell phone number?
Yeah,
or yours
No,
in
that's
the code?
I literally gave you her cell phone number in case I fall over and you
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Becky's very worried about me. I'm okay. But the medium, he had a choice, right? He could have used a different medium. And there are times when we choose to use a different medium as the sender, and because he was the receiver, now he's sending the message back, right? And the same process happens on my end, right? When I see his head bob and he doesn't say anything and he doesn't look panicked and he doesn't have a kind of a quizzical look on his face, or he's doing one of these numbers, I'm probably going, he probably got the message. Let's move on. I got some other messages I want to give him, right? That process, that whole transmission phase, those are all really important aspects. And as a student of communication, which is what a manager is, we realize that noise in the middle of these things can disrupt a lot of things. My email system goes down. That's noise in the system. It affected the channel, right? I'm talking to him, but I'm also staring at my phone. Jacob, I want to make sure you read. Well, he's wondering, is he talking about what's on the phone, or is he talking, what's going on here? Why is he doing that, right? That's noise. That's noise in the system. Jacob, do you speak any other language other than English?
I do not.
Okay. I speak Italiano. That's a dad language. All you do is you put the letter O at the end of everything. So when I go out O for dinner O with my daughter's O, we often speak Italiano so that nobody can hear us O. Okay. So I'm sure you didn't understand that, but it's possible I could speak French. Now that would be a terrible way to encode the message to send to Jacob, right? Because if he doesn't speak the language that I'm speaking, obviously the joke of Italiano aside, then and so guess what? When we deal with international staff, when our staff are not English speakers as native speakers, or all the culture that comes alongside it, we need to think about that encoding, because we may be using colloquialisms or social cultural things that are, appropriate for North Americans, but they're not appropriate for Haitians. And I've seen that happen lots of times. Okay, so this communication process is very important, and is really the underpinning of much of what we're going to be talking about as we try to communicate effectively with our staff. Just as I discussed a moment ago, there are verbal and nonverbal communications. I'm sure you're already familiar with this. I'm trying to turn this off. Let me see if it will go away. Maybe it won't. Okay. And here's an interesting thing that I find this graph to be particularly interesting. When we have three different, when we are in I'll say a face-to-face, one-on-one environment, which as a manager, we get that opportunity quite a bit with our staff. We have nonverbal messaging that we just talked about, right? the facial expressions, the styles, whatever. We have the way we deliver the message, which is often called tonality or tones. If you're into music at all, you understand there's different, volume levels. There's different rhythms and pace. We may speak very quickly, or we might talk very slowly and bore the hell out of people. Right? All of these things are possible, and naturally we use the words. Which one do you think carries the most of the message that we're delivering at any given point in time? If we have those three available to us, what's the blue? Which one is it? Is it nonverbal? Is it tonality? Or is it the words we're using? Let's take a shot at it.
Nonverbal?
You're right. It is nonverbal. 55% of the message that we're delivering is done by our nonverbals, our eye contact, our smiles, our frowns, where we stand, our hand positioning, sitting, standing, whatever, right? 38% of our message is delivered on how loud we speak it, or how quickly we speak it, or what tone we use, or whether there's a little sarcasm stuck in the middle, right? We could use the same words. Jacob, I don't know if maybe you were raised by perfect parents. I wasn't. They would say, "Good job, Paul." What do you think they meant? Were they telling me it was a good job?
Like a little bit of sarcasm.
A little bit? Sorry, I didn't lay it on thick enough. Yeah, it was typically a lot thick, right? Or maybe brilliant. Yeah, okay. I don't think they really meant brilliant. I think they meant something else, right? So they could be standing there with the same facial expression or whatever, but the tonality with which they delivered the message meant the words they used meant something entirely different. Same word, good job, Paul, means something different when it's delivered in a different fashion, okay? Don't forget this part of being a manager. This is why we have to study these things, so that when we do deliver our messages, they are received in the way that we hope them to be received. So an alternative way to look at this is to say 93% of what you say, you didn't say it. It weren't the words. It was everything else. Now, in a moment, we're going to talk about different ways in which we talk to our staff. I'm using the most conventional way, which is face-to-face, one-on-one. Well, the whole point behind this exercise, is that we don't get that much opportunity anymore. With COVID, we've got all sorts of problems. So what happens when we start using the tools that we have in front of us, like Zoom? How close is this to one-on-one, face-to-face? And a lot of this is just your opinion. There's not much right or wrong here. Jacob, for you, how close, if you were to have a virtual office hours with me, how close on a 1 to 10 scale do you think that is to saying coming to my office and talking to me?
I think for me, probably like a 6 or 7, because I kind of have a little bit more noise when I'm on virtual platforms like Zoom, because I'm in my apartment and not your office.
Yep. There's a lot of distractions. There's people walking around. There's distractions out the window. There's echo. Yeah, it's my voice, but it's coming through maybe a tinny speaker or not. Whatever. Becky, what about you?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking the part that I miss the most and where Zoom is lacking is for a student to be able to come in and show me their calculation and point to numbers while they're talking.
Sure.
And that's the piece that I kind of miss out on. But I was initially going to give it about a 7 because I thought, well, it's pretty good, until I thought of that one scenario where I'm just having a difficult time having Zoom take care of that gap.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and you're right on both accounts. We really need to value that special time that is available to us as managers, or whether it's professor and student or manager and staff, when you've got an office with a closed door, you've got privacy, and you don't want to ruin it as a manager by glancing away and looking at your watch and checking your email while you've got that person sitting across the desk from you, right? That's noise. And it's also nonverbal communication saying, yeah, I got a lot of important things to do, and you're only maybe one of them. I'm not so sure. So get to the point, right? That is, we'll talk later about how disrespectful that is and whatever. But what you're doing is you're blowing the opportunity to make the most of that very special thing. Now, later in today, we're going to talk about other mediums. And some of those, sometimes we don't have nonverbals. In fact, many times we don't have nonverbals. Sometimes all we have are words. And when we only have words, those ratios change around a lot. And it also leaves us vulnerable to misinterpretation, a greater chance for misinterpretation of what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so when we have this perfect entity called that, one-on-one, uninterrupted time, we call that a very rich environment, right? Information rich. It's got all the nonverbals. It's got people's attention. It's got the right tonality. There's very little noise. Ideally, it's at the time of the day when we're all most attentive, we're not sleepy, and we haven't been, just coming out of class, and we're all freaked out by the test, or, if you're a boss, you haven't just come off the road from, 3 weeks of travel, and you've got email piled up from here until Friday, and so you really want this meeting to go as quickly as possible so you can get back. I mean, all of those things can impact that. But what we're talking about is an information resource. So what you've got here is this is a very high level, and we're going to drill into this a bit more. But at the top is this area that we've talked about, right? Face-to-face communication, the best we have available to us as humans. And so, maybe with a significant other. Jacob, you said you've got a boyfriend. Becky, you're married. 41 years with my wife, 5 years prior to that dating. We often don't even have to use words to make the kind of communication that it's a very rich environment. I can tell by a sigh whether I'm in deep trouble or not, with whatever happened to be going on right recently. And so that's a pretty rich environment, right? But let's go next down line. I don't know how well you can see that, but it says spoken communication electronically transmitted. That's the phone, right? That's the phone. And so when we go to voicemail, when we go to phone calls, it's better than some of the other ones we have there, but we already know it's not as rich as being face-to-face. And yet there are reasons why we do that. We'll get into that in a minute. Personally addressed written communication. Jacob, you just mentioned that earlier, right? Email, texting, right? Maybe you're doing a Snapchat or something else, right? These are all personally addressed written communication. Snapchat has a video component to it, which the others don't. And then finally, impersonal written communication. I'm sending out an email blast to everybody I know, right? I mean, I'm going up to Facebook and I'm sending out a party invite to the world, right? Impersonal written communication. I'm a boss and I'm sending a memo that we will be closed on Labor Day, right? Impersonal written communication. Now, why do we choose to use a memo to talk about Labor Day closures, Jacob, when I know as a manager, the best form of communication is for me to call you into my office, set aside time, cancel my trips, and sit down with you and say, Jacob, I want you to know we're going to be closed on Labor Day.
I guess to increase efficiency, since it's like a kind of a simple message that has to get delivered to everybody.
What's the risk of getting that message wrong? What's the risk to the organization or to you or to me, if somehow that message doesn't get delivered on the first round to you?
Like if I didn't get the message or if I misunderstood the message.
Either or.
You could show up to work.
Okay, that's the worst,
Yeah.
right? But while that might be very unfortunate for you, it wouldn't be impactful to me or the organization really very much, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, you'd be pissed off. You'd look sort of stupid.
Yeah.
And France, you'd have to have probably missed the message 4 or 5 times, because as you were walking out Friday before, everybody's going to go, "Hey, have a great Labor Day," whatever. Right? So my point being, the risk of getting something like that wrong is pretty low relative to other messages. So, Jacob, if you have been late 5 times in the last month, and I've already warned you that the 6th time is going to cause you to be fired, should I just sort of, I don't know, send that out as a memo to everybody?
No, that probably requires some face-to-face communication.
Yeah. Again, the cost of the getting it wrong is pretty high. It would be for you, and it would be for me. I don't want to fire an employee. I want to make sure you got very clear on what the content of that message was, right? So there are reasons why we use different communication mediums as managers. Most of it, not all of it, most of it has to do with the value of the information that we're delivering at the time. So we talked about this face-to-face. Some of this is just a quick repeat. Obviously, you're sitting in a hallway. We can catch up with each other. Sometimes face-to-face is not one-on-one. Sometimes it's many-to-one or many-to-many. But that applies. It is, however, the most time-consuming, and therefore has the highest, internal cost of doing this, right? Because oftentimes we have to travel and physically be in the same space at the same time. That is the coordination issue. It's a scheduling issue. Often involves travel. Maybe I'm in the Chicago office and you're in the Grand Rapids office. Somebody's going to have to move. If we're going to do one-on-one, face-to-face, that's going to be a costly conversation. I better make sure that the value of the information is important. And so we would reserve those meetings for very important things like annual reviews. Becky, we're calling you in. Your annual review is in 2 weeks. We've already scheduled it. We know where we need to be. We're not going to phone it in, that's what they call it, or mail it in. And before there was COVID, we aren't going to Zoom it in either. We want you to know, and we want to read your body language. We want you to know how important this is. And we want you to read our body language, because maybe we've got some tough information to deliver. Generally, it wasn't. Usually, it was the other way around. You're a great employee, Becky, and we want you to know that, right? And we don't want you to think otherwise. And so that's why we're going to spend the money, which is the travel time and the other issues, to get in front of you.
What's kind of interesting with that example, your next point just brings it up, that you need to have some documentation in those tough evaluation scenarios. HR would like some documentation of what was told and to whom, who was present, and the date.
Sure,
so you often have to follow this face-to-face up with some written documentation.
Well, obviously you speak with somebody with some managerial experience and that, because the problem, Jacob, is that while this is an information-rich environment, we don't generally document them very well, right? It's only recently in the Zoom call that we're going to record it. We would have a full recording of what's going on. But most face-to-face one-on-one meetings are not recorded. In fact, it's awkward to feel it being recorded, right, Becky? Have you ever been in a meeting where it's like, we're going to be recording this, and the radar goes up? It's like, whoa, what did I say or do? Are we going to go to court? That's the first thing that it tells anybody, like, we got problems here in River City. This is not good. So normally they're not recorded. And so therefore documentation is often, again, falls back more often than not on the manager, because it's their job to make sure the message gets through. So we have to generate memos afterwards and whatever. But I won't go into that quite yet. But it's not a perfect form of communication, but it's good. Okay. So when this is a class on COVID. So what's our next best choice? If we can't do face-to-face one-on-one meetings, what's our next best choice if we were a manager and yet we wanted to do a face-to-face meeting?
This is.
Probably, yeah.
High definition video. There are better things than even Zoom. I used to do a small video on something from Cisco called Telepresence, and I was able to travel out to California and look at it as for behalf of my client. And those are called engineered teleconferencing systems. We are using off-the-shelf kind of normal. You know, you've got a webcam, I've got a webcam. All guys should have got webcams, and we're connecting to each other, right? What if we had a room set aside, and we knew exactly what was going to be in that room, and we knew that the other room was exactly going to be set aside and what was in there. That's what telepresence was. So as you walked in, the other half of the wall, or the wall that you walked looking into, was the other room. And they were walking in and they were seeing you the same way. It was scary, weird, you know, full size. You walked up, you sat down at a conference table. The conference table in your room was half of the room. And then it picked up on the screen and went out on the other half of the room. And they sat on the other half of the conference room. And you saw their feet, and you saw their paperwork. And the waste baskets literally were in the same spots in both rooms. Okay. And that room could be in Mumbai, right? Or that room could be in Grand Rapids and Chicago. So there are better than Zoom. And so that's as close that I've ever experienced to face-to-face communication without literally being face-to-face, right? That we had that distance that allowed us to be there. But for most of our companies and most of the companies you're going to work for, what you're experiencing right now using this class and this software is one of the better, if not the best, that's out there right now. This is a term from the 80s. Becky, do you remember MBWA or not?
No.
Okay.
We talked about the water cooler a lot.
Well, it's the same thing. It's essentially the same thing. This was proposed by a couple management consultants in the 80s and 90s, In Search of Excellence and a couple others. It is a manager's informal way of talking to people. And so they call it MBWA, management by walking around. It's just that simple. And water cooler talk, whatever it could be, right? It's got some definite advantages, right? It's less formal than, having a meeting with Becky in 2 weeks to talk about a review. And I can see her body language, and I can deliver some really important messages to a small department. I might pop in. Yeah, I might lead with something like, "Hey, you guys know we're closed on Thanksgiving?" And everybody goes, "Oh, like we have been since we've been there." "Oh, and by the way, I want to get some feedback from the new healthcare plan we're thinking." "Oh, did he really come in here and tell us about Thanksgiving, or did he really want to get some information about the healthcare plan?" Okay, whatever. So that's what we talk about, right? It's just an area to walk around, try to get some feedback, do some other stuff. Now, this is a useful technique. As a manager, if you're physically in the same offices, it's really good to get up out of your chair and walk around and not be tied behind that desk. But again, we're not meeting in offices. So if I have a group of 10 people, how am I going to do MBWA this way? What would I do? What could I do? And by the way, there's no right or wrong answers here. We're just poking at you, see if there's anything that comes to mind.
I guess to get a similar effect, you could reach out at the end of the day to employees, like call them, just kind of ask how their workday went, and then maybe get some questions in there.
Sure, I
conversation.
like that. Randomly, I'm calling for no other reason, just to see how you're doing. What else could I might do, Becky?
Yeah, what we do is I'm a consultant at Amway on Monday, so every day the team gets together at a specific time for each person to say, this is what I'm going to work on today, but it always turns into just general chit chat until
Yeah.
that half hour is done.
Right. Every Friday, I have a virtual lunch with some other professors in the management department. And we get our soup bowls or whatever sandwiches, and we pull up Zoom, and we're just chit chat. I mean, you know, the one thing we all have in common, obviously, is GVSU, so it's frequently a topic of conversation, but it doesn't have to be. Talk about our kids, talk about the weather, talk about the idiot in the White House. We're talking about a lot of stuff, right? We can talk about that. So that could be done, and probably needs to be done to build some level of socialization among your staff. It's important that they see you not just in formal circumstances, but rather that there's a softer side. You know, I won't say you're not their buddy. I'm not suggesting you become their buddy, but you can be far more accessible, and you're going to learn some things about what's going on by doing MBWA. Hopefully, COVID doesn't go on forever, and we won't have to do these virtual lunches and pop-ins. But it. By the way, when we do finally get back to normal, whatever the new normal is, you may have people that are always working remotely, and so guess what? You're probably gonna have to do this, right? Because not everybody's gonna be there all the time, and so we may have to reach out to them. Okay, certainly the spoken communication electronically transmitted, it's rich in that it has tonality and pace and rhythm and all the other things that we're looking for, but of course it doesn't have nonverbal cues. But we're pretty good as humans of picking up. You've talked to somebody before, chances are you could tell if there's a lilt in their voice and they're happy, or there's some concern, or even without seeing their face, you can almost visualize they've got a furrowed brow and they're trying to convey some tough information to you, right? But there's no visual verbal cues, right? Now, as a manager, sometimes this is all you have available to you. You're on the road. You're calling from your car. You got your little earbuds in. You're not going to be doing video conferencing, I hope, from the road. I got to tell you, the savvy manager goes, hey, I'm conducting a department meeting, and I'm talking. And I've been talking for the last 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to pause here for a minute because I can't see your faces. I don't know if anything I'm saying is resonating with you or not. I'm going to leave some dead airspace here for somebody to jump in and let me know, are we on the same page or not? And it's really hard for this manager to shut the hell up long enough to allow somebody to talk. It is. So, but we can do it. It can be done. Personally addressed communication, obviously. Let's not forget, by the way, the power of the handwritten note. Jacob, you are going to get some secret sauce today. Okay?
Wait.
Because Becky knows this, because we didn't always have texting available to us. We didn't have all that stuff. When you got a handwritten note from your boss, you kept it. You put it on the tack board. You went home and you told your significant other, hey, I got a note from the boss today. Really? What was it? She just said, I'm doing a great job, and keep doing it. But it's a personally addressed written communication, and it has a very powerful thing. It can be overused. If she says, man, I really like the way you made coffee today, like you did for the last 2 weeks, that's not really going to mean much, right? But if I did something significant and she noticed it and she wrote it and said something to it, left it on my desk or mailed it to my house, that's a pretty powerful thing. I did that. It's important not to overuse it, but remember, it's one more quiver in your toolbox, or one more tool in your toolbox, one more arrow in your quiver. that you can use in order to effectively communicate what you're trying to communicate. And sometimes it's just not messages. Sometimes it's a cultural change, right? Hey, I want Becky to know how important she is to this organization, and I want her to know that so that she doesn't start looking somewhere else. I don't have to recruit her replacement. Right? That would be something. Then, of course, you've got the texting and letters and emails and whatever. Jacob, why were emojis created?
I don't know. They're like little digital facial expressions.
Okay, think about that. They're little digital facial expressions. So what does that mean?
It kind of allows you to put a little bit of artificial emotion into it, kind of like nonverbal.
It's exactly what it is. Exactly. It allows you to put some of that nonverbal back in, right? And by the way, Becky, I hope you know what that eggplant is. I won't go there, but so. You don't, do you? Okay, you have a son in college, not daughters. What's the eggplant a symbol for there, Jacob?
A lot of people use it to be kind of a inappropriate male part.
Yeah, that might be it. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, there you go.
I hope that's what you meant.
That's exactly what I meant.
Okay.
I appreciate your gentle description, Jacob.
Wasn't that nice? What a gentleman. What a gentleman he is. Very good. Okay. I like the little turd. I think he's pretty funny. But yeah, these are the emojis, and they happened almost, organically. People are saying, I'm tired of my text being misinterpreted. It was meant as a joke. I better put a smiley face afterwards, right? To let you know that I really did mean it was funny, even though it might have come across as mean-spirited. That wasn't the point, right? And the reason it came across as mean-spirited is because you didn't have any tonality, you didn't have any nonverbals, and the words themselves were so easily misinterpreted that and just in the same way this happens in personal communications, it happens in professional business communications. Now, I don't suggest that you go get a whole bunch of emojis. That's not my point. My point is, don't use nonverbal. I mean, use nonverbals and intonation better, and be careful when you're communicating with only words, that you're communicating just dry, kind of matter of fact. We've got Labor Day off. It's hard to misinterpret that, right? Okay, was he trying to tell me only I have Labor Day off? No, we're not trying to tell you that. No, we have Labor Day off. That's it. Okay, let's go. All right. I want to get back to, I'm running a little bit longer than I want because that's not too surprising. So these will be up on the whiteboard on things. So we want to make sure that we are aware of these barriers. Obviously, we don't want to be ambiguous. We don't want to be incomplete. I'm sure you've seen a lot of text messages that are incomplete. Messages over an inappropriate medium. Now, Becky, when I used to break up with my girlfriends, and I didn't have very many, I met my wife when I was 15, so I only had like 2 or 3 before. How were you supposed to break up with somebody?
It was supposed to be in person.
It was supposed to be in person, wasn't it? Right? Can't we just be friends? It's really not you, it's me, blah, blah, blah. Can I get out of this very awkward conversation as quickly as possible and run away and tell my other friends so-and-so and I are broke up now and we don't have to do that, right? Okay. I think some of the guards are coming down. I don't know, Jacob, have you ever had to, or have others, or are you aware of other people who are still breaking up on texting, or do we just ghost them and they disappear from life?
It's kind of like a good mix, I feel like. Really just depends. Kind of see a little bit of everything with people my age.
Is ghosting still appropriate? Was it ever appropriate?
It's probably common. I don't know if it's appropriate, but common.
Ghosting is common.
Probably. I think a lot of people my age are uncomfortable with explaining things, so they just.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, boy, that's an understatement of the decade. Okay, so instead of ghosting you, I'll text you.
Well, hopefully you say it in person. So.
Okay.
That's still the hope today, I think.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Well, that might be an inappropriate meeting, right? I shouldn't fire you over texting. Okay. I should probably, if you're going to be dismissed, for me, a sign of respect is to invest in that highly rich and costly communication of face-to-face, one-on-one. I'm going to have a conversation with you, and try to explain to you, make it as palatable as possible. It's not going to be. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like me at the end of this. I better go in knowing that. If I think I'm going to be making a friend here, then I'm in the wrong business, because I'm not. But in order to show the respect that the person deserves as being a human, we don't fire them over text, right? We call them in. Hopefully we don't even fire them over email, which is not much better, right? So messages with no provision for feedback. That's a barrier to effective communication. I've got a whole story about that one, but I can't go there. And messages that are received but ignored, which is pretty much most professors' emails nowadays, which is really frustrating for us. I got to tell you, I don't know how to get over it, except to jump up and down and scream more, and maybe hold my breath until I turn blue or something. I don't know. Okay, we can overcome some barriers. This is a very common question I get. Professor, I don't know. I'm not getting I haven't heard back from. Usually, I get it from my salespeople, but this could apply to professors. I've asked the professor for a letter of recommendation. Becky, have you had to write any yet?
Yes, I have.
I bet you have. I already know enough about Becky that I bet you generally don't have to ask her twice. But let's pretend that you did. Okay. Let's pretend the first time you did it while you were walking out of class. That's a medium. It's face to face. There's a lot of noise going on. It wasn't well documented. She knows that. So she probably said, Jacob, would you send me a note to that effect? I'd be happy to do that. But she's so naive and so anxious to please her accounting students. So, yeah, sure. And now Jacob's left with going, how come she hasn't written one yet? Maybe she doesn't really like me. She never really liked me. I'm probably going to get flunked in this course. And God knows where they go. And they come in, they go, what should I do? What should I do? How did you do it the first time? Well, I talked to her on the way out of class. Oh, okay. Maybe that wasn't the best medium. Maybe you should have sent her an email. Maybe you should get her on the phone or leave a voicemail. Or God forbid, you should actually go to her office hours. There you go. You can switch mediums very easily. But what I usually get are this. What I usually get is, I sent her an email. I sent Dr. Smith, fictitious Dr. Smith, an email asking. I never heard back from him. It's been a week. I sent him another one. I still haven't heard back from him. I'm coming into your office, Professor Hillman. What should I say in the third email? I say, don't send a third email. I say, Dr. Smith doesn't read his email. I'd say, let's change mediums. Let's go a different route, okay? Your message isn't getting through, so do something different. Maybe I'm not as clear as I need to be. That is almost always the case. The best way to get clarity is have somebody you trust read the message before you send it. I've practiced firing people with others in the room so that the message comes clean. I've had lots of people read emails before I've sent them. I've read emails later before I've sent them. I've had people read reports or memos or whatever to make sure the message is clear. But sometimes I'm not sending a memo. I'm firing somebody. And yet I still need to get it clear, the message, so I will practice the one-on-one meeting if it's so important, so that I've got clarity and the other person goes, yep, I think you're right, or no, I would add some additional stuff. And then finally, you can always ask the backup question. Did you understand me? Can you paraphrase what I said or heard? Can you tell me what's next? Okay. I'm going to skip this slide because we're going to this slide. Busy slide. Busy slide. Okay. Tell you what we're going to do also. We're going to leave the slide on the screen. It's 1:55. You guys have been great students. And we're going to give you a 9-minute break. Okay, we're going to start again at 2:05. Okay, and I'm going to we're going to have a little exercise. Like I'll leave this on the thing. What I'm going to have you do, I'm going to put in the chat window a PowerPoint I want you to download. Okay. Are you able to click on the screen and get to that link right there or not? I don't know if you can do that.
No.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay. I think what I have to do is this, just a minute, so you can see it. All right. Let me go over here. I think this will work. Okay. Do you still see that sort of slide, but in different? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So if I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and you guys get that, you should be able to download a PowerPoint. It's like 4 slides. If you would do that, just glance at it, take a break, get a cup of coffee at the bathroom, do whatever. If you're having trouble, let me know. We're going to work on that next. Okay. And I'm going to put myself on mute and change my background. Just do this. Jacob, I'm going to move you into a separate breakout room. Oh, by the way, had you already figured out? I want you to pick from that matrix one that is in the first 6 and one that is in the bottom 7. Was that obvious or not?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, let me just move you into 2 breakout rooms real quickly. Usually I have to have more people, but not too many here. Okay. Let me just manually go into 2 rooms. Have you guys used breakout rooms much before?
For an interview on Zoom one time, I think.
Oh, I love them. I love them. All right, go ahead and join, and I'll join you over there.
Okay.
That was interesting. Oh, the join just went somewhere else. Okay.
Hey, Jacob. Okay, good. So, so what we're asking you to do, what I'm asking you to do is, let's see if I've actually got that PowerPoint somewhere. I think I said, okay, you tell me what you're doing, and I'll tell you if you're right. How's that?
Okay. So picking one of the first 6, so first 6 in information-rich options,
Yep.
and picking one of them and then answering the questions with that one and applying it to different situations. And then for the second one, picking one of the not-so-rich options.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly right. Okay, so what was your first rich option?
I was going to go with video many-to-many.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go through that. So, so what is it good at?
I think it's good at getting things that might be a little contingent or temporary communicated to a bunch of people, because policies are changing constantly, the world's changing constantly, so a lot of questions that need to be answered. I think it also gives a good forum for them to give immediate concerns, immediate voicing of concerns.
Sure, and the communication model, we said, what is that? What is it when they voice concerns? What is it the manager is getting? Feedback. Yeah, we want feedback, particularly if you're changing people's policies.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do that in a vacuum, right? So
yeah.
So there are probably other mediums, other choices where the feedback is very nil. That would be a terrible place to put that kind of thing, like maybe sticking it on a company newsletter or something like that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on a second. For some reason, I'm having some trouble pulling that up. All right. So it's rich there. What else did you? What else am I asking you then of that?
So for a weakness of this particular form of communication, I guess just has to do with the noise that we were talking about earlier. When you're not face-to-face, it's just the setbacks that come with not face-to-face communication.
Yep.
So it's a little bit less personal, more noise.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things when I would have a one-to-many meeting or many-to-many meeting, when they walked into the conference room, and we had a pretty good-sized conference room, we could sit maybe 20, 25 people in there. I knew, that they were there. They knew not to pull open their phones to start backgrounding me. They knew that this was not going to be a time to be checking, Facebook walls. They didn't give me an excuse about I didn't know how to get into the room, right? Because we hear that on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
My car, my device didn't work, so I couldn't come to the meeting. I think your device works. All of those are problems with the current Zoom environment, right?
Yeah.
And those we have to overcome. And so, as a manager, for instance, I've got a student I haven't seen yet, That's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reaching out. Call me if you can't make it. Call me if you're having trouble. Have I heard squat from this guy? No. Probably he's too scared to tell me he's dropping the class. But, you know, it sure would be a lot easier on me if he would just say, hey, Professor Hellman, you sound like a pain in the ass. I'm not going to take this class. Okay, cool. I got that. That'd be great to hear, right? Anyway. All right, let's go to number. I'll tell you what, you do the same thing for number on the not so rich. I'm going to jump over and check to see how she's doing.
Okay.
Hey, Becky. Oh, did I lose your mic or my mic?
Oh,
Say
can
something
you hear
good.
me?
Oh, no, I can't. I can't.
Okay.
It hadn't synced up yet. Yeah, I was hoping to do this with 6 different people, and they would do all 6, but clearly we're not going to get there. So that's fine. Which one did you pick on the top?
Face to face.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip over that. What'd you pick on the bottom?
Email.
Good. Let's talk about when that's a good choice, when it's not a good choice, what you would use it for, what you wouldn't use it for.
Okay. I thought that it's great for a quick forwarding. Like, let's say I got an email from a client and I know that one of my staff can take care of it. I don't have to rewrite everything. I can just hit forward and send it to them. It's also good if I want to try and update a group of people, so I can just all of a sudden copy the 10 people that it's important to and let them know of the situation. So it can help make things faster.
Absolutely.
It gives me documentation that I could, print to a PDF and file it somewhere for future use.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Some of the weaknesses, though, are that there's no opportunity for someone to pop in because of COVID. Someone can't just pop in my office to clarify, hey, that email you just sent,
Right.
Did you want me to do this or this? They likely have to respond in another email.
Yep.
So some ways that, let's see. Oh, other options where you could use it is if you're trying to post-COVID return people back to work. This could be, here's our plan for
I can
returning
distribute
people back to
plans
work.
pretty easily. Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah, so it's good for
what's it not good for?
firing someone or giving them a bad evaluation.
Yeah. Or you could generalize that a little bit more. Both of those are highly volatile, very risky conversations, right? Well, think of a client, at PwC, right? You got a pissed off client. You're probably not going to rip into your staff over email. You shouldn't.
Yeah, and actually, what I found is I had to be very sensitive when I had to give a client the news that they owed a lot of money on their federal tax return.
Oh, yeah.
So I would have to decide what type of client is this? How have I dealt with them in the past? Should I just send the email saying, hey, we should have a call about the results of your return? What time is good for you?
Yep. Yeah, there's another good example of not. I wouldn't just use. Oh, by the way, you owe $10,433,000 and blah blah blah. Congratulations. Remember, if you hadn't earned it, you wouldn't be able to pay it. So there.
It usually doesn't go over well.
I hated that. That was a freaking my accountant's answer every time. Why is my tax bill so big? Hey, if you hadn't made so much money, you wouldn't have to pay so much in taxes. Go ahead and leave the breakout room. We're going to go back in and share together.
How do I leave it?
I thought it told you, didn't it?
Oh, leave room.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me go back to get, I'm going to move him. No, I'm going to ask him I can broadcast a message to everybody. Please return to main.
The other thing about email is that if something's time sensitive, you almost have to start it with a phone call saying, hey, I just sent you this email.
Anymore. Yeah. Anymore. Although, when's the last time you actually caught somebody on the phone? Usually you're leaving voicemail. So it's like, are they more likely to answer voicemail or email? I don't know which. Right? So
I found that more recently, I'm now texting someone saying, is now a good time for a phone call? Or do you want me to call later?
I find it interesting because I've seen this, of course, 35 years worth of business experience. I never pictured texting, and when it first came out, it's like, sorry, we're talking about serious stuff here. This isn't what we're not in junior high here. But yeah, people are texting now for very good reasons. Jacob, let's have you. What was your information rich one? Walk us through what it's good for, when you would use it, and when it may not even be appropriate, even though it's information rich.
Yeah. So the information rich one, I think I picked Zoom meetings, so video many to many, and I thought that was good for with COVID situations, like widespread things that affect everybody that are kind of sensitive topics, like policy changes, any like cuts on benefits that have to result from COVID related losses of revenue and stuff. I just thought it was kind of like the second best thing with the COVID world, to getting the most personal experience possible.
Are there some times when you wouldn't use it?
For like serious one-on-one things that need to be discussed with specific people, sensitive information in general, I guess, but that's not like widespread.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Becky, what was your information rich one? What did you pick?
The face-to-face.
Okay. So this is face-to-face one-on-one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Which I'm sure as a manager you've done many, many times over the course of your career. What do you like about it? What is its strengths? What is its weaknesses?
I like that it's high touch. You can get immediate feedback from it. Some of the weaknesses that in COVID it's not available, and if it is available, it's a high risk situation. You're both wearing masks, and
I've not been in. By the way, have you? I've not had a face-to-face one-on-one with masks on, because what it does is that it actually blocks some of the nonverbals.
It absolutely does.
And so, are we better off to be actually in a Zoom at this point? I missed some of that. I don't know, because I have a lot of facial expression. I've been told that, and I know it to be true. It's like talking to Mr. Who was Tim Allen's guy that lived across the. You always saw his eyes.
Over the fence.
We're dating ourselves, Jacob. Sorry. There was a character on a very popular sitcom. No one ever saw him. He only peeked over the fence for 10 seasons. You never saw his face. You just saw his eyes. Becky's looking it up. Thank God.
I am.
Know what it is. I don't know. Anyway, everybody knew who he was because
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson. Okay, so you never saw Mr. Wilson, and so you hear these pithy comments, but you didn't know if he was smiling. I mean, he really, all they did was manipulate the nonverbals, right? They would use terms, and words to convey, but, he had a little bit of eyebrow, but not even much of that. Okay, anyway, Becky, I digress, as always. Let's go ahead. What's your next? Let's go on the less information-rich side, and then we'll go back to Jacob.
Do you want me to go for this one?
No, I want Becky to go first.
Sorry. I thought you said Jacob. Email was the one that I chose for that one.
Mm-hmm. And talk to us about when it's good, when it's bad, when you use it, when you wouldn't.
It's easy. You can quickly forward an email, like if it's a question from a client, and I know that a staff can respond to that. It's very easy to send that out to the staff. Or if I want to copy many people, or maybe it's just, here's our holiday schedule, and then I can copy a whole bunch of people. And it's also good for documentation, and good for things that may not be time sensitive, because if they are time sensitive, you have to make sure that someone knows that it's coming and knows that it requires immediate action.
So we should always use email.
No.
Oh, no? When would we not want to use email?
Yes, Jacob kind of touched on that with Zoom. When you have some sensitive issues, the example that I gave Professor Hillman earlier was when I would prepare someone's tax return and tell them that they owe a lot of money, that would not be a good thing to put in email unless we've already had that conversation of, you're going to owe more than 40 grand. Do you want me to let you know the final number by phone or by email? And then a lot of times they'll just say, just send it by email. Then I feel comfortable doing it.
You've already hurt my my ears are already burning, so how bad can it be at this point? Unless, of course, the email says, I'm sorry, I said 40, I meant 400. Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Okay, so yeah, so we got that. Okay, and Jacob, what was your less information-rich choice and good, bad, and when?
I picked text messages for that one, or like group texts. I thought that it was good because it's like a quick delivery of simple messages. You're able to directly address people quickly. It's kind of some sense of informality too, kind of like how we talked about earlier, like that quick text to somebody on your staff, like, how are you doing today?
Right.
How was your day? Is there anything you need to talk to me about? And with the downsides that I think that they're easy to misinterpret, obviously, and it doesn't show like full respect or attention to certain issues that might need to have more respect or attention.
One thing that is not quite as identifiable as a problem with text, but I have a lot of problems with it. Jacob, I hope that this isn't the last time I get you in a business class. I teach a Management 331 organizational behavior, and we do a semester-long teaming project. And group communication is critical to the success of these teams. But the problem is, by default, you folks immediately go to text, and it's very hard to document who is supposed to do what and what's next and what the things are. You don't see the threads that occur. You don't know necessarily when they got it and when they replied. It's very hard to put together. Email was set up for that level of documentation to document the communication channels, okay? I got the email on this date. I respond to it on this date. It had these attachments. All these things were clear. Oh, I know that Becky got it because she was on the CC line, right? We don't get that kind of level of clarity when we're using texting. And so you're right. It is great for the informal, but there are a lot of reasons why we would not want to use it even in a business environment because of the lack of, I'll call it documentation, but it really is documenting the communication process itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Nice job, everybody. Both of you. There we go. All right. Ooh, never taught a class for two people. That's okay. I consult with two people all the time, so it's really no different. So it's not that much different. Okay, so let me get back to where we were. So we should be here. I'm sharing out, ideally. You're seeing my screen. So this little graphic is actually what I call the management communication mediums. This is my own creation. As you can tell, this is a bit of a, I don't know, a pride point for me. I can see a lot of business problems solved or avoided, maybe, if one, as a manager, correctly understands the message they're trying to convey, chooses the right medium for the right reasons. We don't overload one channel. We've got all these channels available to us. Don't, if you've given 13 different tools, not that you have to use them all, but you don't have to always, well, you're going to hear it in a little bit. I don't know if we get to it today because I'm talking too long. Abraham Maslow, we're going to be talking about hierarchy of needs. He coined a phrase that is commonly used, or not, it's somewhat commonly used in life, but often in business. If all you own is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Has anybody ever heard that phrase before? Becky, have you ever heard that phrase before? No? Jacob, you want to take Becky, take a stab at what do you think it means? If all you own is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Something that requires you to pound on it to make
probably a little too literal. If I only have one tool, if I don't own a screwdriver, if I don't own a saw, if I don't own anything else, and all I own is a hammer.
Forcing everything into what I need.
Exactly. MBA students are particularly bad at this. I'm really, really, really good at Excel. So I solve all of my problems using Excel. Even, I create websites with Excel. It's like, what? Why would you create a website with Excel? Well, did you know that it can do that? I know you can, but that's not what you're supposed to do with Excel. You know, I mean, that's the example of if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. The key is we have lots of tools at our disposal. And in this small area of management communications, we have at least 13 different ways to communicate with our staff, and probably more if we really went to it. And they have their advantages and disadvantages. All right, let's keep going. Eventually, I'll get to the next slide. You've seen this. You've done a breakout room. By the way, I just had to throw this in here. I love little corny little videos. I am going to, sometimes Zoom isn't super good on doing videos. So I am going to do something else. I'm going to break out a PowerPoint. This is for those of you who are Zoom aficionados. I am going to go to, temporarily go to YouTube and play it via YouTube. When you play it embedded in a, I'm just telling you, it's quicker to play it when it's embedded in a PowerPoint, but the quality isn't always as good. So let me do this. And I've got to get to and I pull this over. Let's see here. Okay. If I've done my job right, you should see a form of Blackboard on your screen. Do you, Becky?
Yes.
Okay.
And now we can
Hopefully.
use that.
Okay, I am going to mute, and hopefully you will hear this little funny video.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for being here on time. Paul? Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, guys.
Oh, hey, Tyler.
Sorry I'm late. Having a hard time connecting.
1 second. Paul's having a sound issue.
I can't hear you. Try adjusting your output settings. Can you hear me? It's the gear icon.
Tyler, are you on hotel Wi-Fi?
Yeah, why?
Never mind, I got it. I just had to change a few settings.
Great. Maybe we can get started then. Oh, great.
I think your mic is speakers.
My mic?
Do you have headphones?
You want me to put them on?
No, I want you to smell them. No, I want you to put them on. Hey, Beth.
Hey everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had to download a new version of the platform.
You should plan extra time for the updates. There's pretty much one every time.
Sounds like someone just joined.
Hey guys, it's John. I had to call in. I'm stuck in traffic. Have I missed anything yet?
No, it would have been nice for you to join the rest of us, but we'll see you when you get home. All right, while everyone is here, finally, Tyler, do you have that financial report?
Well, it's been the last few weeks updating our books, and I got some great news for you. Schedule from this point last year. We had a great Q1.
We lost Tyler, I think.
Am I frozen?
Hey, Trip, I think we lost Tyler.
Yeah, I know, we lost Tyler.
Hey guys, it sounded like Tyler was cutting out.
We know, John. All right, while we wait on Tyler, why don't we go over all of the reports from Beth, are you with us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everyone, I know some of you have to leave soon, but I just wanted to go over a couple of the queries before. Okay, excuse me. My wife's out of town this week. Daddy's, I'm so sorry. Okay, you just spilt grape juice on the carpet. Daddy is in a meeting. Tyler, can you go over the numbers one more time, please?
I thought Beth had an adjustment. Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, that's my iTunes.
Hey guys, hang on. I'm gonna join in. Hey, what platform are you guys on? Skype? FaceTime?
It's in the invite.
Oh, never mind. I see it. It's right there in the invite.
Okay, now I can see everybody. Let's reschedule and let's just do a regular old conference call, okay? Paul, can you have David send out the 9-digit passcode?
I heard you.
Yeah, he's been here the whole time.
All right, everybody. I'll see you later.
I don't know if you've seen these guys before. They do. They had one before called a conference call in real life. Now it's a video call in real life. I find them hilarious. Hopefully you do as well.
They're so realistic, honestly.
It's terribly realistic. Yeah, it's horrible. So anyway, all right. So let's move on. Those are just meant to be fun things to see here.
My son just walked in. He's like, "How are you listening? It sounds hilarious."
It sounds hilarious. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. You can download. It's embedded in this video. You have to run it as a presentation. You can't just grab the link, or you can just Google a video conference call in real life, and it will work. It'll work that way too. So okay. So let me see if I can get you. Where are we? Okay. I'm trying to get my screens cleaned up again so that I can see you. And yeah, there's too many things going on here. Okay. So we just completed that section. Let's go from here. Let's see if we get from here. Okay. So I'm going to move along a little bit because we've got about, I'm going to take you about till close to 5 to 3, and then we'll break for today. This is the video that I think was last night for you, which is the Google video. And maybe you've been on multiple teams. I'm going to assume Becky probably more than Jacob. So let me start with Jacob. Jacob, have they forced you or asked you to work in teams yet here at Grand Valley or even in high school?
I mean, I'm part of the Winter Guard at Grand Valley's executive board. So, I mean, that's some of the complications that we've talked about so far. And then as a manager at Tim Hortons, I had to work with the management team too. Not necessarily academically, besides like in-class work.
Okay. And Becky, I got to believe over the course of your career, you've been on plenty of teams, right? Those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. So how we build a team is really important, turns out. And Google, because they're obviously specialists in data, decided to take their engine, if you will, a data analysis engine, and focus in on themselves. Because in most corporations, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of teams being created, dismantled every month, right? And some of them are short-term, and some of them are long-term, and some of them are single-focused, and some of them have lots of different characteristics. And they wanted to analyze these things and say, okay, what is it that makes one team successful and another one not? And so that we could build better teams, because as a manager, clearly we want to build good teams, right? We know for certain, this has been proven time and time again, teams outperform individuals like 9 times out of 10. Every once in a while, you get an Einstein in your staff, and you should assign everything to Einstein because that person will outperform the team. But more often than not, you don't have an Einstein. And you need to assign multiple people to the team, and you want the best result. So you don't give it to just one person, you give it to 2, 3, or 4 people. Well, who should be on that team? Should they be people who already are friends with each other? Should they be people who are higher IQ? Do higher IQ teams perform better? Maybe they have better experiences. Maybe they're all motivated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They measured dozens of different things. And they did it pretty scientifically. Pardon me, which was very important to the results that were presented in the New York Times. What they found is after doing this for 2 years, that they really didn't see many patterns at first about why some succeeded and other teams failed, or at least didn't perform at the level that they thought. That they thought some things that were going to be important, like makeup or others, didn't seem to be as important. Of the same members demonstrated their varying results. So that was weird. and other metrics, like were they friends before they were part of the team? Were they friends after they were on the team? Did we have a strong leader inside the team? Did they all share biking as an interest, or they were all male, or they were all female, or whatever? Nothing really provided that kind of insight that they were looking for. They did see a couple things, and Jacob, if you take an OB class from me, we'll be talking about group norms on a separate level. But having some written and unwritten rules about how the team should behave is an important aspect. But that wasn't the biggest issue. The biggest issue actually says the final determination was that a group of superior individuals was less important than the collective ability of the team. So here we are. We've got maybe some superstars. Maybe we got the Becky Kaisers of the world, the PhDs of accounting and finance and such. And we've got 3 or 4 of her on the same team. My God. And we've, put a lot of other people out there as well. They should knock this thing out of the park for what the problem is that we presented to them, and yet they don't. Why? Well, it turned out that it was all about how the team behaved with each other. So it was documented and it was presented in a couple different ways. One is in the New York Times article that's listed there. The other is in that short little video you watched, which we're not going to watch. But it talked about a couple things. First of all, Jacob, what does conversational turn-taking look like?
Kind of just making sure everyone gets like an equal input in the meeting or whatever the congregation is.
Yep, and I'm not sure if you were talking about it last night, but were you the one that brought up emotional intelligence, or was somebody else bringing that up?
I think that was Brad.
Okay. This is where emotional intelligence is a good feature, because sometimes, we don't necessarily want to force everybody to talk, because there are sometimes people that don't do well in those environments. And a team member with high EI can see that. But other times they might be able to pick up on body language and say, you know what, we really haven't heard from Becky. We need to hear from her. And I can see that she wants to say something. Okay. So they said the 2 things that are important here are conversational turn taking. And then, Becky, what does ostentatious listening look like?
I was thinking that was intentional listening, but I wrote it down. Show people that you are listening.
Yep. So and how do we do that? How do we show people we're listening to them?
I think it's by making eye contact with them and not being distracted by other things. Looking at my second screen, it's hard to know if I'm actually listening.
Yep. And other ways, we can paraphrase back to them. We can parrot it back. Hey, what I thought I heard you say, Becky, was that, not looking away to another screen is one way to show somebody that we are listening to them, right? Or if they've been rambling on for a while, as I often do, you could say, hey, Professor Hellman, I think what you meant to say, or what I heard you say, is this, that, and the other, okay? And so maybe even summarize for them and give them a chance to give feedback or not. Those are 2 critical elements of this Project Aristotle, because what it came down to is this. It said psychological safety in the team was the single highest predictor of team success. So as you are managing people, you need to ensure that when they're talking, even in a video conference like we're talking right now, and you're looking for a collaborative team play. Now, there are sometimes when our messages are not meant to be collaborative. This is me talking to my staff. And I may convey in no uncertain terms, it's time for you guys to shut up and listen. Okay, I'm going to be talking. There are other times when I really would like some feedback. I need to, in order for us to be successful, I need to work. Well, I need to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to contribute, and that when they do contribute, we are looking at them and notifying them and giving them the feedback that says, yes, what you're saying is important. Okay? We could do that by writing it down on a whiteboard. We could do that by, as I say, parroting it back to them. We can collect it in our notes and show it back to them. There's lots of ways to show people that you were listening, but that's those are the things that come to us. Okay, that wasn't the only thing that Aristotle found, Project Aristotle. Okay, one is we have to be dependable. Duh. Dependable team members are better than non-dependable team members. There's a clear structure. Cool, we like that. We know what our roles are and who can we rely on. That there's some purpose behind what we're doing. You know, we know why the team exists and how long we're in for and what we're supposed to get accomplished. And that what we do is important. All these 5 things are important for Project Aristotle, but they are most important for psychological safety. Okay, normally I would have inserted a break here. If you're okay, I'm just going to go on for another 10 minutes and then we'll break here. So, all right. You two get a picture of what the final assignment is going to look like. It is due, I told you I would tell you about it today. It is due, I think, next Thursday. It'll be interesting. It will be both written. It's easier if you come to class. I'm doing this because it's being recorded. You won't have as much work to do if you show up to class. But what we're going to do is you're going to use that matrix that you just used on our little expert. And let me jump to the bottom and then I'll work my way back up. Because you two are the first ones to see this, you get to pick one of these as your focus for the next 2 weeks. Do you want to focus on Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Hangout, Cisco WebEx, Slack, Bluescape, Basecamp, or Monday.com? All of those are different collaboration pieces of software. Yes, go ahead.
Are we picking the same one to work on together or
No,
separate?
these are individual. Yep.
Okay. The screen is really blurry. Can you read them again?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I bet it's this stupid font I picked. Just a second. Let me go differently to it.
It kind of started blurry when when you were talking about Aristotle and Google.
Okay. Yeah, suddenly my my internet sources are not, but let me see what's going on here. Oh. Ideally.
That's showing up better for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Your audios are all breaking up, so I'm thinking something's wrong on my end. Give me just a second. I want to check something while you're looking at. Can you see that? Okay. And I'm gonna do some background on my task manager, and there's some background process that's going nuts on here. Okay, so what you should be looking at right now, the fact that whoa, look at all that, and it's going a little ballistic there. Yeah, I'm going to kill some things that are going on in the background. That's probably part of the reasons why you're getting the project. Okay,
It's a black screen right now.
Oh, I'm breaking up again. What's going on?
It's just a black screen.
It's just a blank screen for you? Okay.
Our volume is bad.
Let me unshare. Yep, just a minute. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Let me kill some of the processes I've got. I have too many things going on my computer. It's not an unlimited machine, and it does run out of juice now and again. Okay. This may get better. Is my audio better?
Yeah, for me.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to try to share that screen again. Do you see a screen?
That's better.
Okay.
Clarity is good.
Good. Okay. Pick one of the following. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 options you have. Each of you will pick one. I'm going to let Jacob go first just this time. So Jacob, if you know right now, pick it. If you don't, then Becky's going to pick, and then she'll have the next choice or whatever. But do you have a preference?
Could I do Microsoft Teams?
Well, yes, you can. That's what going first means. Okay, we will do Microsoft Teams. Becky, what are you going to do?
I'll do Zoom.
Okay, you do Zoom. Great. All right, Microsoft Teams and Zoom are taken care of. So what's going to happen? Ideally, what I would have at the end of this is you guys will see the results of each other's work. And so each of you will be a little bit smarter managers, knowing the advantages and disadvantages of Teams and Zoom, and hopefully Hangouts and WebEx and Slack and some of the others if I can get the other students to follow through. Okay. So what you're going to do is you'll see here, you've already selected a tool. You're going to use that tool. And by the way, many of these tools, Teams is a good example, has multiple components. Okay, it's not just a video collaboration system, right? Zoom is a lot of video collaboration, but it has other stuff to it as well. So you're going to have to do a little bit of reading. In fact, what I want you to do is I want you to find 4 articles, minimum 4 articles. You can go more. 2 that are positively written. It can be written by the vendor, by the manufacturer itself. Those are usually positive ones, or you can find it independent. But what I also want you to do is find some critical of the solution. Sort of looking for those things. This is what you shouldn't be using Teams for. Or when you try to use Teams to do this, it doesn't work so good. Zoom has got some deficiencies that you will learn about. Okay. Describe why, as a manager, you might use that in your world. What kinds of communications would go through that tool that you selected? How often would you use that tool? Some of these are designed to be up and running all day long. Some of these are one-time events. Like, okay, I have a Zoom meeting. I know when it starts and I pretty much know when it ends, right? Teams doesn't work that way. Not necessarily. It actually has a couple components to it. Sometimes it's only written. Sometimes it's chat. Some of these systems have, there's a little chat window here, but maybe I just want to chat with everybody. Is that right? Or not? What's the type of communication I'm going to use? Can I, do I have nonverbals available to me? Whatever. What would you not use the tool for? And then finally, prepare a short presentation. I'll probably give you a PowerPoint format to use that you can to start with, so you don't have to do a lot of work to get what should this look like. But yeah, that you would the last day of class that you would be walking us through 10 minutes. This is what I found out about Teams. This is what I liked about it. These are what the criticisms are. You don't even need necessarily have used it at that point, Jacob. I don't really care. If you wanted to go to use it, it's pretty easy to get into and work with. If you wanted to do that, that's fine. Okay. So, so it's a pretty, I think, a fairly straightforward 10-minute presentation. If you're not going to be present, then I'm going to require, the idea was that everybody would be present. I might have one that wouldn't, and then I would meet with them individually, and they would present to me. But if we have this level of participation, then the people who aren't going to present are going to have to write a paper to that end, explain all the same things where they can just do it verbally. For me, I prefer oral presentations over written, but I guess that's up to others to decide. Questions, comments, concerns?
It says present your findings with a PowerPoint, video. So
PowerPoint, video, presentation. I mean, either or. I don't mean.
Oh, okay.
I mean both hand.
So we don't have to create a video of it.
No, if you were a MIS person like Jacob, and you use Camtasia, and you wanted to, capture a little video of you using Teams, and you wanted to super impress the professor, you could do that. It'd be over the top, but yeah, you could. Or if you knew you were going to be out of town and you wanted to do your little 10-minute presentation on a video, you can do that too.
Okay.
Any questions, Jacob?
I don't think so.
All right, there will be. So don't worry. That's what virtual office hours are for. I'll have them up tonight at 8. I'll just be sitting here working on some other stuff. So no worries.
And you'll be uploading this PowerPoint to Blackboard?
Yep. It might be up there already. If it isn't, but I'll just double check to
Okay.
make sure. And I'll upload the recording. This thing starts. It takes about 2 hours for this thing to process the recording, and then another 15 to 20 minutes to upload. So, but so figure by 6-ish, the recording will be up there.
And have you already uploaded the new schedule that shows
Yes.
here are the readings on this day?
Yes. It's in last night's PowerPoint, and it's under
Oh.
documents.
Yeah.
Yep. It's in last night's. That's okay. It's in last night's. It's in last night's PowerPoint. Go into documents. Go into. You can either see it through the video, which is a long way to get to it, or just go straight to the PowerPoint under the PowerPoint folder, and you'll see.
Perfect. I see it now. Thank you.
All right. I won't see you guys again formally until Thursday night, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Sounds
Have a
good.
rest of
Bye.
the week. Don't forget to take your exam, Jacob.
Okay. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.